Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm so excited. Today, I have a very, very special guest and friend, Alexa. So, Alexa, I want you to introduce yourself, tell us your name, what you do, everything, all the things.
Yay! I'm so happy to be here. I just missed you so much too. So I'm so excited that we can have a conversation again. I am Alexa Cawley for everybody listening. I am a marketing consultant and I have a marketing podcast, which is how Alana, you and I met was very long ago. You were presented to me and my podcast as a guest. Still to date, one of the best episodes ever, one of the highest downloaded. And we've kind of come full circle. We've worked on your marketing stuff,
Yeah,
and
indeed.
I've talked to you a lot about things that I was dealing with when I came to my body and food and energetics. And yeah, I'm just thrilled to be here, and I'm excited to wrap up this whole, every our whole relationship so far.
Yeah, I mean, just the continuation, and I'm just
Yeah.
so excited. I feel like we've had conversations about you and about your journey, and really, this episode is going to be about learning to love your body. I know that it's been a journey for you. We haven't really talked about it in a while, which is why I was so
Yeah.
excited to have you on because I feel like the in the year, like I think it's been maybe a few years, like maybe 2 years or so since we've had a lengthy conversation, but I feel like you've
Hmm.
had such a journey with your body image,
Yeah.
and that's why I was so thrilled to have you here today. I remember what we used to talk about, and now
Yeah.
it's like it seems, at least on what I see on social media and like our DMs here and there,
Yeah.
where we just support each other's businesses.
Yeah.
Um, it seems like you're in such a different place. So I really want to give you the floor. I'll ask questions here and there, but it's
Mm.
going to be really about you just sharing, as really, a woman living in, I think, do you live in New York or do you live
Yeah.
in
Yeah. In New
California?
York.
I don't know where,
I know. Everyone is
um,
like, where do you live?
but really just like owning your own business.
Hmm.
I feel like you're in your 30s. So I feel like you're in this age that is a really unique, time frame and age to be in for women. I feel it myself
Hmm.
being in my 40s. I think like I'm kind of on the elder end of being a millennial. But I
Hmm.
think as millennials, we have this unique perspective on health, on our purpose, on
Hmm.
pressures, on our body image, and how all these forces really coincide and
Hmm.
coalesce together to create our relationship with eating and body image and how we can
Yeah.
move through it. And um, I always love chatting with you about it. So, yeah, just take the floor, and that's all.
I'm honestly so excited. I love talking about food and nutrition and body image. I think it's all connected, right? And that's
Hmm.
so much what I love about your perspective too, is just like it's all connected. It's not
Hmm.
like the way that you view food is not going to be very different than the way that you view your worthiness when it comes to business. And
Yep.
if you're trying to call in and manifest all these fantastic months, but you have this self-worth of yourself that's super low, or you're treating your body like a garbage can, those two things are not going to happen at the same time. And
Totally.
it is all connected. So yeah.
100%. I mean, I say the same thing to my clients about why it's so important to really authentically love your body and own how you want to feel in your body, whether that is not to lose any weight or it
Hmm.
is to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
Whether it is has nothing to do with weight or
Hmm.
whether it's to change your relationship with it or not, but really own what you want, because when you live in a body that you love, when you live in a relationship with eating that you love, your
Hmm.
life happens.
Hmm.
You really step into that aspirational aspect of your life. You attract the life you want.
Hmm.
And it is all completely connected. You can't really attract on a vibration that
Hmm.
you're not living from.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just give the brief overview, and I'm gonna start at that episode that you and I did. And this had to have been at least 3.5 years ago.
Hmm.
And it was right after COVID. I think it was like right when the vaccine had come out. And so
Yeah.
you and I were chatting before we started recording. And you had said, like, we were talking about the vaccine and our reactions to it. And
Mhm.
you said, because I didn't have a fantastic reaction, it was not great. And you said, do you have hormonal issues? And
Right.
I was like, I think so, but I'm not really sure. Like, no one's ever told me. So that I feel like sums up my entire first 3 decades of my life was like
Mhm.
everyone sort of being like, no, you're fine. Like, so I have PCOS.
Mhm.
And I've gone through the ringer of trying to like get diagnosed and get the ultrasounds to see that I have cysts. And for those who don't know, PCOS a lot of the time will manifest in insulin resistance. So
Yep.
like eating carbs can get, pretty tough on someone who has PCOS, and it
Mhm.
manifests in like quicker weight gain than it would for
Mhm.
someone else.
Mhm.
So for a very long time growing up, and TMI if there's any male listeners here, but I wouldn't get my period for like 10 months at a time.
Mhm.
And all of my doctors were always like, it's fine. Don't worry. Until you're trying to get pregnant, doesn't matter. Don't
Mhm.
worry. And so I finally was like, I was about 27, and I had gained 30 pounds in like 3 months. And I was like, something's not right. And I went to my doctor and she said, no, you're just getting older.
Mhm.
And I believed her, is the craziest part, that I was just like, oh, okay. Like, you might be right. I might just be
Mhm.
getting older. I was eating the same. I was working out the same. Nothing was changing. And so I kind of was just like, okay, like eat less, move more. Like, that'll just be what happens. And then I just kept gaining weight because I just kept trying to restrict myself. And I didn't know enough about blood sugar balance or any of that. And I was just denying it. And I was like drinking a lot and going out with my friends and living in New York City and, all of that. And then about 2 years ago, I finally did just have a wake up call. And I went to this functional medicine doctor that had a much deeper like blood panel,
Mhm.
and I saw it all. Like, I saw my glucose. I started really looking into, because I also have genetically high cholesterol.
Mhm.
So I started looking into like, okay, well, where does cholesterol come from? It comes
Mhm.
from the liver. Where do your
Mhm.
hormones come from? They come from the liver. Like,
Mhm.
okay, what's going on here? Right. And so I just started, I'm a big researcher. I love just reading everything I
Mhm.
can. And I just started really going into it and figuring out the diet that was going to work for me. And I just honestly just started living that way. And I don't feel hungry. I don't feel like, I just feel amazing.
Mhm.
And it's that very funny paradox of like, once you stop, like, it stopped being about weight for me and
Mhm.
it started being about my period and my hormones and like
Mhm.
living a longer, more radiant
Mhm.
life. And that is what changed it all. And
Yeah.
I have not gained a single pound like since I just like dropped all the weight, and I feel awesome. I feel
Yeah.
really great.
Oh my God, I love it. I mean, you can see it also. No, you could just see it in your aura,
Thank
honestly, more
you.
than anything else. I haven't seen you in person in a while,
Yeah.
but I could just see it in your aura
Yeah.
100%. But I'm curious, what what were some of the lifestyle stuff? What were some of the workouts that you were doing?
Mhm.
We talk about insulin resistance, and as a functional dietitian and as, a clinician, I know the relationship between insulin and cortisol, and how we live in such a heightened cortisol and sympathetic
Mhm.
nervous system stimulated environment,
Yeah.
which means that we do have cortisol that is pumping out on a regular basis that influences our insulin, that influences insulin, that
Mhm.
influences estrogen, that influences all these things.
Yeah.
And so, did you feel like, was your lifestyle, um, was it triggering that kind of overproduction of cortisol with like high intensity workouts, or just
Mhm.
like, go 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 attitude and go 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 with your work and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's funny. So when I really noticed my weight and I was like, I look so puffy, and I was just like, what is going on? I was living in New York City. I was in my mid 20s, going out with friends all the time. I'm Italian. Carbs are the backbone of our, like I didn't know the macro breakdown of a food. I didn't know if a food was a carb or a protein or
Mm-hmm.
what the effect that would have. Like,
Totally.
I just didn't, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I was also working for Soul Cycle Corporate at that
Yep.
time. And I truly, in my like heart and soul, I was like, well, I'm getting cardio. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
my doctor, all these people are telling me to just do more cardio. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it. Why is it, nothing's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I really started focusing on weight training and walking. Like I just walk
Mm-hmm.
a ton. I do berries a lot, but I usually do double floor. So I'm like
Mm-hmm.
only really doing
What is
the weight
double floor?
training.
Sorry.
It like so berries is it's half treadmill, half weights.
Okay.
And so you can do both weights if you
Okay.
wanted to.
Gotcha.
I do also cycle sync. I'm like a very big fan of cycle syncing and not doing high impact workouts
Yes,
like
I'm
the
a fan.
2 weeks or the week and a half before my period.
Nice. Good for
Um,
you.
I'm so into it. I think it's so fascinating. I
Yes.
like have the aura ring to track like where, my temperature fluctuations and all that fun
Yes. I want to
stuff.
get that as a gift for my husband and I. However,
You
I
should.
think we need to order the
The
ring
sizing
tied
kit.
to it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And like I'm a 6.5 and this is an 8. So it is
Oh,
like
so good to
don't so you
know.
have to
Okay.
do the sizing kit. Don't like bypass it because it's their sizing is a little tough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so like, yes, the question of cortisol,
Yes.
100%. It was stressful living in the city. I
Mm-hmm.
lived on the Upper East Side. I lived on First Avenue. I was
Mm-hmm.
commuting to the West Village for Soul Cycle every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot. Like there was a lot of movement going on, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
rushing, and a lot of cardio and a lot of
Right.
going out at night.
Right.
And I really, really thought I was doing everything that I should be doing because that was what everyone told me to do.
Totally. For sure. How do you feel like your personality factors in, though, to
Mm-hmm.
this? Because I know that I have friends who are, might also have this kind of lifestyle, but
Mm-hmm.
they're much more like relaxed. Like they're much more not relaxed per se, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're not, they're much more like go with the flow, in their life, in their personality. Do you
Mm-hmm.
find that you're more of like an overthinker? Do you find that you're more of a, um, like a manager type?
Yeah.
What's your personality like? Because I find that for people that are more like perfectionists, achievers, that kind of what I like to
Yeah.
say more like in their masculine energy, which is like doing focused, and like
Yeah.
that's just either something they're familiar with being, whether that's conditioned over time, due to lifestyle factors, or it just is who they are, which a lot of women are, and that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find that your core personality in that
Mm-hmm.
aspect factors in?
It's such a great question. I don't get tired.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am someone who very actively needs to remind myself to chill out.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to remind myself to be like, oh no, you have had a hard day. Like, it's okay to sit down on the couch and watch a TV show and
Mm-hmm.
unplug for a little bit. So living in the city and, having this like high powered job and like all the cardio and just all this stuff, I never reminded myself to chill out, not
Mm-hmm.
ever. And I do think that that stuff had a big, I think that that did have a big factor, but I think it was just the unknowing. I just didn't know things about
Mm-hmm.
how to change what I was eating and how to change, my workouts. And I honestly think it was like for me, it was just the lack of knowledge and the lack of
Mm-hmm.
instruction on
Right.
like how to live.
Exactly. Like you actually do need to know how to eat for you. You need
Yeah.
to learn about nutrition.
Yeah.
Right? And nutrition isn't
Yeah.
just macros. I always say this. It's macros and micros.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
macronutrients and micronutrients.
Yes.
Whenever I work with people and in my programs, I teach people about both macronutrients and micronutrients, because
Mhm.
macronutrients are the bricks of the house, but micronutrients are the people that build the actual houses with the bricks. So
Mhm.
if you don't have the micronutrients with your macronutrients, it's not going to be sustainable long term. The
Yes.
micronutrients is the nutrition that is in control of the enzymes, of the hormones, of the neurotransmitters,
Yep.
of the hormone release and balance. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so key to get nutrition education,
Mm-hmm.
and get it personalized, and also just get information about how those things connect with exercise
Mm-hmm.
and with lifestyle, right?
Yes, 100%. I love that you're bringing up that conversation of macros and micros because I grew up like my mom was so nutrient focused. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a very, very, very healthy household and not in no like it wasn't restrictive. It was literally just value add healthy. Like
Mm-hmm.
we with bell peppers, she would be like, bell peppers are really high in vitamin C. It's really great for your skin. Like
Mm-hmm.
I learned all of that. So I knew I had a really good foundation of the micronutrients
Mm-hmm.
and zero understanding of macronutrients and how that was affecting my muscle and my lean body mass. I didn't know any of that. So like I would be, for example, like I would make myself I would like meal prep this whole thing with quinoa and beans and just all this, like this whole huge carb meal without knowing what it, and I like really was like, this is the healthy, I'm so healthy. I am so healthy.
Totally.
And now I look back and I'm like, oh girl, your blood sugar. Like, no, like, what do you think was going on here? But
Totally. But
you
also, we
live and
had this
learn.
conversation, I feel like, a few years ago about salad, right? Like with
Mm-hmm.
Sweet and all these just salads where it's like people going and having salads every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would see this with clients too. It's like, I'm healthy, I'm having a salad.
Yeah.
And I would look at the salad and I'm like, with cheese and with
Mm-hmm.
Brussels sprouts that are fried, and then with grilled with chicken and
Yep.
with sweet potatoes and with nuts and with avocado and
Right.
with,
And you're like, it's a 1,500 calorie salad.
it's not even it's the calories, sure, because at
Yeah.
a certain point it does matter. But what I like to call it is dense. Like
Yeah.
everything in there is dense,
Yeah.
right? Like if you look at
Yeah.
the macros, oh, and rice or quinoa, right? If you look at it,
Yep.
it's like
Yep.
pick one, like sweet potatoes or quinoa,
You're
right?
describing my life. I would
Pick
get
or quinoa.
the wild rice at Sweetgreen was my favorite food.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been like my freaking birthday cake if it could have
Right.
been.
Exactly.
And I was eating it every day. And I
Yeah.
was like, it's Sweetgreen. It's
Right.
healthy. There
Right.
was no protein in this
Mm-hmm.
salad. None.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm just like, that was a carb. That's it. Like,
Right.
no judgment, but like that isn't serving your lean body mass. That isn't serving my hormones. Like, no
Well, it's not
wonder I
serving
wasn't getting
you.
it wasn't serving me.
Yeah, because of your PCOS diagnosis, it wasn't serving you. Well, of your PCOS that was not diagnosed yet, or
Right.
what you weren't educated on yet, and yeah,
Yeah.
hormone balance for sure.
Yeah.
So carbs are definitely not the enemy, but when it does come to PCOS and
Yes.
insulin resistance, you do have to monitor carbs more than you would if you didn't have a diagnosis like that. So I just
Yeah.
want to normalize that.
Yes.
But I can't tell you. I mean, the salad culture is insane. Like
Mhm.
it's almost like this blind faith that it's healthy because it's salad,
Mhm.
but it's not. Sometimes I would look at my clients and I'm like, you can go have that burger,
Yeah.
like have
Right.
that pizza, like
Right.
go to town,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what has changed? Like, give me an example of like how your diet was before, how it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's so funny because like I'm you're like bringing up the like me back then, right? Being like, oh no, I'm going to Sweet Green, like really thinking I was doing everything right. And I just like I look at that girl with like so much love because like I really thought I was doing everything the right way. And now the way I eat,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel so satisfied. Like I don't even know how to describe it that like
Mm-hmm.
I don't I just enjoy food and I don't
Mm-hmm.
think about every single meal and I'm not restricting myself at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
And the I focus like on my protein and my fiber and I do track food. It works for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
But I track my protein and my fiber and
Mm-hmm.
that's it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've learned a lot about PCOS and I've
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot about hormones.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as I am getting an adequate amount of fiber, I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed that my estrogen levels are much lower.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's it really. I just like I focus on, and I'm a pescatarian. I don't know if you still are, but I am.
I am not actually.
You're not.
No, I turned 40 and I had to start eating chicken. Like
Wow.
it
Yeah.
was, or maybe it was right before I turned 40.
Just like a body craving.
I needed it. Like I was barely functioning. I was so
Wow.
tired, and as someone who's very in tune, and that's why
Yeah.
I'm always like, you have to, there's adapting, you have to learn how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I eat chicken
Mm-hmm.
now. I don't eat red meat. I never did, but,
Yeah.
and that's no judgment on people that eat red meat. For me, it's less of, it's less about ethics and more about
Yeah.
digestion. I can't actually physically swallow it.
Yeah.
So for me, that's how it is. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Mhm.
I've gone through phases too where I'm like, someone near me will be eating something and I'm like, no, like I want that. But then I
Mhm.
go through phases too where I'm like, it doesn't feel right in my body. So the answer
Yep.
is no. But yeah, no. So I eat about 130 grams of protein a day. I like
Mhm.
really try to get that. Cause again, I lift, a lot of weights now. I do a lot
Mhm.
more resistance training than I used
Mhm.
to. Um, I, yeah. And it has been so much more now about just making sure I'm adding those things
Mhm.
in than what I can't have. Because the fact of the matter and what I've sort of realized is like, as long as I am hitting those things and I am getting that much protein and that much fiber, nothing changes if I
Right.
want to have an ice cream cone or if I want to have a slice of pizza with my friends. Like my body still looks exactly the same the next day. My clothes fit me exactly the same.
Yep.
Like over the summer, for sure. Like, was I having lobster rolls all the time and ice cream? Like, yes,
Yeah. Same.
I'm still that's life, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to just never do that. So, but as long as I am getting it, the adequate protein and fiber,
Mhm.
my body really hasn't changed. And I've gotten
Mhm.
more of that like adaptability. And my metabolism has definitely gotten a little more like resilient, I would say.
Amazing. I love that actually, that you're calling metabolism resilient, because that is so perfect. That's the perfect. I always say optimize. I always
Uh-huh.
think it's just science geek. Like every word I use is
Yeah.
like sciencey. Optimization, or like
Yeah.
all that stuff. But resilience, I feel like I'm going to steal that now going
Yeah. Well,
forward.
it's like a rubber band, right? And that's like
Mhm.
someone said this to me the other day. She was like, "Oh, well, I'm just getting older and so now my metabolism is shot." And I
No,
was like, "Your metabolism is not shot because you're getting older. Your metabolism is shot because for 35 years you've been eating 800 calories a day thinking you're going to continue to lose weight." And it's
and you're
all like,
also and you're also thinking about it all the time,
right.
and you're also like overly preoccupied, which is such a big, you know,
Yes.
point of focus that I like to talk about with my community. I
Yeah.
do want to ask you, did you ever have issues, because my community is primarily emotional eaters as well as people
Mhm.
that want to love their body?
Oh
Have
yeah.
you ever struggled with emotional eating before?
So I would say, it's more from the place of food being a celebration and
Got it.
like that sort of culture,
Yeah.
right? Um, Especially, just being in New York at this time period, my late 20s, early 30s, it was something good happened. Great. Let's go out and get a drink. It was, someone's going through a hard time. Okay. Let's meet for dinner. Like we didn't have the culture yet of like hot girl walks and
Right.
girls like
I just
going.
found out about that. I've never felt older in my life, by the way. Looking at Instagram and seeing some of these things that like sometimes
Yeah.
I see on yours, I'm like, what even is this? I don't even know.
But it's like I don't think that wasn't popular, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't
no.
like Lulu, like because I worked for Lululemon before I worked for Soul Cycle.
Mhm.
That totally shifted the way I thought about socialization because
Mhm.
we would go to workouts together instead
Yeah,
of going to
right.
dinner, and I was like, "What
Yeah.
people do that?" Like for me, I really thought the only way to celebrate and socialize was through food and alcohol. That
Totally.
was it.
And that is so common
Hmm.
for so many people that emotionally eat.
Hmm.
That is definitely something that they struggle with. And I think a lot of people that are listening to this, and that, that are definitely in the community that I serve, use food as a coping mechanism.
Hmm.
So I just want to say, when we talk about how you find a lot of safety in tracking,
Hmm.
I think it is largely also because you don't use food as you haven't really ever used food as a coping mechanism. So
Yeah.
for you, you have a different relationship with food, and the tracking isn't isn't some sort of bypass to deal with emotions related to food, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I just want
Totally. Totally. And I will say I think some things that have helped me with tracking, like I use my fitness pal and you can
to.
turn off what you don't want to see. So
Mhm.
like I don't ever see how many calories that I have like left or anything like that. I
Okay.
literally just have turned it on that I track my protein and my fiber.
Okay.
That's it. Those are the only two numbers that I look at.
Okay.
Um And I never pay attention to calories or if I'm over or under any, I just like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that's part of my
Mm-hmm.
visibility.
Yeah. Yeah, it just also it's amazing to just reflect on how different people from their different experiences relate differently to different accountability measures for their own unique goals.
Yeah.
And just to circle back to what we said in the beginning is to always understand your own unique goal and
Mm-hmm.
your own unique pathway towards loving your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yours, no
Mm-hmm.
offense at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
education,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With your
Mm-hmm.
weight, and that's your journey. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a journey of emotional eating or binge eating, and so your treatment plan of tracking macros, I see, even as a clinician, I would
Mm-hmm.
probably offer you the same treatment plan because for
Mm-hmm.
you, without any emotional attachments or really addiction to food for any other reason,
Mm-hmm.
this is a really great solution for you for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny, you said accountability markers. The So I threw away my scale May 10th, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I literally have not weighed myself since. I
Mm-hmm.
only go to the doctor. I use my clothes as how I
Mm-hmm.
feel, right? Like
Totally.
that's
Yep.
what I use. Every time I go to the doctor, it's like the first time it was that I lost 30 pounds and then it was like 35 pounds. And every time I'm just like, cool, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's not the accountability marker that I'm focused on at
Mm-hmm.
all. My period is my
Mm-hmm.
accountability. Like that is what I'm focused on, is like
Mm-hmm.
how far apart is it?
Yep.
And it's so funny, like circling back to the earlier conversation, for me, it became so much about like feeling like a woman and
Mm-hmm.
feeling like I was in my feminine by like being able to embrace this part of my life
Mm-hmm.
that like I just was so like I was like, doctors say it's okay to not get my period, so that's fine, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like the not going through that every month and not
Yep.
tuning in to that part of your body and your cycles and what goes into like, right after your period when you're feeling more creative
Mm-hmm.
and in the middle when you're feeling like there's different phases of us as women, and that makes us such like powerhouses at running our businesses too,
Yep.
that it's like I look back and I'm like, what was I missing out on by just like not knowing and like having my head in the sand and not paying attention to those 10 months at a time? Like what was
Mm-hmm.
even going on for me then? So it's such an interesting thing of like, that was my account, like that was my marker, is like,
Mm-hmm.
how am I doing, like what's going on with my cycle.
Amazing. I mean, I love that you appreciated being in your feminine because that's such a huge tenet of so much of it.
Mm-hmm.
Of when you can relax into your feminine, and our cycle is such a indicator of that. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
when you go to the doctor, they'll ask you about your cycle because not having it is such an
Yeah.
indicator of your health,
Yeah.
especially when you're within age of having your cycle.
Yeah.
And so I love that you recognize, and especially from when we met,
Yeah.
because I think that when we met, you were so not connected to your feminine,
Mm-hmm.
but understood that it was maybe necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that you appreciate that and value that because that is such a huge value that you need to have in order to lose weight
Mm-hmm.
actually, and and have the capacity and even the space and the bandwidth
Mm-hmm.
to create a body and a life that you love and feel confident and entitled to live from
Mm-hmm.
and know how to do it, right? Know
Mm-hmm.
how to live from that body,
Mm-hmm.
feel valid and worthy of living
Yeah.
from that body. It's really about understanding what being in your feminine is. And
Mm-hmm.
the cycle is such a good example of that. It's such a flow, it's such an ebb and flow. It's such
Yeah.
a dynamic type of situation. Whereas where you were in before, where we even talked about it being more masculine, is not dynamic. Masculine
Mm-hmm.
energy is not dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
It's very one road
Mm-hmm.
straight to a solution. Like
Yeah.
go, 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 right? It's
Yeah.
not about softening back, letting it flow. It's not about that.
Yeah.
So, and as women, we're not. physiologically made up for that. Our
Mm-hmm.
hormones are not physiologically made up for that. We're made
Mm-hmm.
of more of estrogen, which isn't so conducive for go, go, go,
Mm-hmm.
right? Testosterone is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I said in the beginning, like I have a heart. I don't get tired. And so I have a, really, I really don't, except for like usually the day before my period, then I'll get tired. But learning so much more about my cycle and your ovulation phase and your luteal phase and your follicular phase, like
Mm-hmm.
learning all about that has been that permission slip
Mm-hmm.
of, okay, my body temperature is higher today. I'm in the second half. I'm going to go to yoga and I am just going to chill out today.
Yep.
Like learning that because I do have to remind myself to slow down. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that like I'm not one of like some people are lucky where their body gives them more cues of like
Mm-hmm.
today's a slower day, like today's, is so yeah, I think learning about the cycles in that way has really helped. And I don't know if you follow Alyssa Vitti.
Mm-mm.
She wrote In the Flow and
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. It's just it really goes through each of the cycles. And what I love about her is that she does speak specifically to a lot of female entrepreneurs
Mm-hmm.
and she'll tell you in each cycle where like what your process might be feeling like for projects and
Yeah.
creation versus letting some things like play out. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been really eye-opening.
Amazing. What are some of the things that you've taken away from it?
So yeah, so right after your period is the follicular phase, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like that's a really good time to be doing if you want to be doing HIIT workouts or if you want to be running or if you want to be doing Soul Cycle, like
Mm-hmm.
that's the time to do it,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's also the time for content creation. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you're feeling more glowy, you're feeling a little more energized, like from that up until, your ovulation period. So I actually know someone who will only film her reels
Mm-hmm.
when she's in like her ovulation
Uh-huh.
period. She's like and I'm like, that's a lot, but it
Uh-huh.
works for her, right?
I
So
get it.
like, yeah, it totally works.
The estrogen is on the rise. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And then what's the second, the luteal
Yep.
phase before your
Mm-hmm.
period? I will not like once my temperature starts to rise, I will really only do double floor, long walks,
Yep.
weights, yoga.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm really feeling energetic and I want to run or I want to, because that's the one thing I struggle with is like, well, then
Mm-hmm.
how do I ever keep progress with running if I'm like constantly,
Mm-hmm.
shifting? But if I do want to run, then I'll just take it a little bit slower,
Yep.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I did really learn from her that was so validating was that during your ovulation phase, you burn 300 more calories a day like
Mm.
something about that. So like when we're always hungry at that time, it's
Mm-hmm.
like because we're burning more. Like we do
Totally.
actually need to be eating more food. We're not just like annoyingly hungry. Like
Yep.
there's a biological reason behind the food that we want. So that was very freeing.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Totally. Oh my God.
Yeah. I love her stuff. She's very interesting.
Amazing. So what do you think the biggest shifts that have happened for you over the last couple of years?
I always like our conversations and every time we would always meet up, like I always just feel like I learned so much from you, honestly, about like your self-worth. And two things happened in my life at the same time, which was like losing weight, learning about PCOS, and my business taking off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if they were 100% correlated or if it was sort of like a little bit more of like a seesaw thing. I don't really know. But
Mm-hmm.
my income and my business and my visibility has grown as my health has improved.
Mm-hmm.
And I do sort of see them as like, like a tangled web, just like
Mm-hmm.
kind of going together because I
Yep.
think as I've started to earn more money and as I started to really step into this version of this person that I've wanted to be, like
Mm-hmm.
this is going to sound, I really only want to fly first class. There's like, I
Girl.
really only want to stay at
Yeah.
5-star hotels. Like if I'm going to be sleeping on a couch, I'm not going to go. Like
Yeah.
there's just been some stuff lately that I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I feel really lucky that I've been able to do that for
Mm-hmm.
myself. And that version of me is not someone who's eating crap and treating my body like a garbage disposal. And like that version of me is not aligned with the person who didn't know or who would eat, in a way that wasn't conducive
Yeah.
or that was going to derail my period for a month. Like that's not that same person. And so like, I do think that those two pillars of my life have been so intertwined that like, I can't disconnect them at that point,
100%. I mean, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I, as somebody who had a terrible relationship with food, had eating disorders, terrible relationship with my body for a long time, and also always was in toxic relationships, desperately wanted to be in a loving partnership. Um, and that was something I really wanted. Also living a lifestyle of of what I consider to be, really like high value. I also love luxury and all that stuff. And there was the same life when I healed, when I really healed my relationship with eating and my relationship with my self-worth and my relationship with my body,
Yeah.
and with
Yeah.
and really understood that living from that is a practice and a process. There are certain skills to create that. It isn't something that you just read in a book and then you take it on and you're like, oh, this sounds great. And I read it in a book. It is something you need to install and practice regularly. And I similarly noticed that when I really committed to practicing being in my feminine in certain actions and behaviors and making certain choices with food that maybe scared me before, but I did it with boundaries and with discernment, I saw that my body, I lost weight, which for me, like the same way that you feel about first class, like I feel about being on the thinner side. I like being a smaller size. For me, that's just, I feel better.
Yeah.
And I feel more self-expressed. I feel more permission from the inside,
Yep.
not from the outside. I feel sexier from the inside. It's not for
Yeah.
anyone else. People
Totally.
have told me I'm pretty my whole life. Didn't matter if I was 30 pounds heavier, if I was not. I feel better looking a certain way, and that's on me to do the actions and to commit to those practices. And I saw the same trajectory when I was doing that. I attracted an amazing relationship that triggered me a lot in the beginning. I didn't feel worthy of it. Like I was very activated. And I
Yeah.
had to call in all of my all of my training, all my skills, all my
Yeah.
sources. I started feeling more like anxious around food because that's my coping mechanism, right? So I had to really do the work, and the work is something that you continue to do over time. And I don't think it was a coincidence that I finally, found the relationship I'd been yearning for, and I feel so embodied and fulfilled in my life and work as well. So it is very much connected to all of those things together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all connected. And that's just, it's an irrefutable fact at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so amazing to, it's so amazing to connect with you. And it's so amazing to see how just luminous you are.
Thank
It's
you.
really, really nice. And yes, your business has exploded. I mean, not surprisingly, you're so brilliant at what you do. So.
But so are you. And it's, God, I'm just like, I was thinking, so I'm getting all my holiday gifts ready for clients this year. And I was getting something written up and I addressed it to all women. And I was like, oh gosh, wait, okay. So I'm sending 120 of these gifts. Is that true? Like, are they all women? And I went into my Stripe and sure enough, I literally only work with women. And I was like, wow, like what powerhouses we are when we're just like really leaning in and embracing the feminine side. Like, I just feel like it's been such a lie that like for us to succeed as women, we have to play into the way men have done it. And it's just like when we can lean into who we are as women, we're actually so much more productive and efficient. Like and we get the time to rest. Like we're just so capable. And I just like, meeting you all those years ago, I just like, you're the best. And I love
Aw,
watching your business. And I just like, I know that we are each just such supporters of each other. And I love that
a
so much.
hundred, 100%.
I love
Always,
that.
always. Well, tell everyone where they could find you.
Yeah.
What do you want to leave them with? Feel free to just take the stage, share what you love.
I'm like, wow, what do I want? I want to leave you with like, if you think something's not right, investigate. That's maybe what I want to leave everyone with. No, I mean, say hi. I'm foreverfriday.co on Instagram. And yeah, that's really it. Just say hi if you are also going through this. I know every time I post about PCOS on social, everyone is like I get so many responses of people being like, this is exactly my story. I dealt with this
Mm,
too. So if you feel like someone's not listening to you, reach out because I'll listen.
mhm.
It's a lot. It's a long journey for sure.
Uh, well, you're such a testament to what committing to and investing in healing really does. And I love to see it.
I
So
love it. Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you so much, Alexa.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone. And please don't forget to tune in every week to another episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped, where we talk about loving food, loving ourselves. And you can find my free resources on www.bewellbyak.com. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.